Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting video. I am Tyken, and today I'm going to teach you all a little bit about COVID, proper mask safety, as well as precautions you can take to protect yourself, as well as others, because if you get the virus, chances are you're going to spread it whether you know it or not. So, first thing I want to talk about is mask safety, because I see so many people wearing masks, and they don't do it right. I work at a hospital now, and even before this, I kind of did a little bit of research, but they kind of really nail it into you when you go there because you're working around sick people all the time, whether it's COVID or anything else that's contagious. So I'm going to show you specifically the proper use on the basic procedure masks. I think the yellow ones are procedure, the blue ones are surgical. I think they're relatively the same thing. I honestly don't know the difference. I tried to look it up. But anyway, so first thing you do is, first day I put these on upside down, by the way, you have the little metal strips. That's the top piece. I kept putting them upside down, and it was horrible in every sense of the word. So the metal piece, let's straighten this out just to show you. But first of all, I don't think this side really matters, but usually the folds are the outside. But the first thing you want to do is never touch the inside of your mask. Even if you think your hands are clean, they're probably not. As soon as you touch the inside of your mask, whatever was on your hands is now in your face. So if you did touch, whether it's coronavirus or any other virus or bacteria, it's now in your face all day. So never touch or let anything else touch the inside. Very important. Besides your face, obviously. So first thing you do is put the mask on. And this is really important because you want to mold the metal piece around your nose. I don't think you can make it uncomfortable, but essentially you want there to be no gap right here. And I see a lot of people do that, or not do that. So, I also see a lot of people wearing their masks like this, or even kind of like this, where their nose is just in their mask, but they can still breathe through the top. Effectively, if you can feel cool air coming in to your nose, it's not effective. No matter how much it's covering, you have basically big holes. You can think of these as kind of like giant nets that are trying to catch any viruses or bacteria. If you have any holes, you're essentially letting it flow directly into your face, and wearing it's not going to help at all. Now, the other thing you need to know is that these are basically toilet seat covers in every sense of the word. You basically don't want to touch the front. You don't want to set it down on anything. You don't want to like scratch your nose underneath or anything. Like these things are disgusting. They're essentially like a Kleenex. But instead of you sneezing into it, you're putting it over your face, so if anybody sneezes on it, it doesn't go into your face. So these things are disgusting. So when you do take these off, you don't want to pull them down. You don't want them like this. You don't want to hang them off the side of your face like this, or any iteration. You want them either entirely on your face or entirely off of your face. And then you just kind of take it and you either hang it on something or you set it down on a surface. Now that surface is going to be gross now, but any public space is going to be. Again, like especially if you set it on a public table, it's going to get gross. Whatever was on the table's now on the mask. So ideally, you want to take your mask off as little as possible, or set some kind of barrier down, like any kind of plastic or napkin. That will help. But again, they're going to be disgusting, so don't touch. And again, you definitely don't want these things to hang down, because again, it's like thinking of them as like a used tissue or a toilet seat cover that's touched the toilet. The other side is going to be touching your neck, your face, your hands. Whatever it touches is going to be gross, and you don't want to put your face or mouth anywhere near it. So yeah, that's about it. And again, you want it fully over your face. If you have a hard time breathing through it, I wouldn't say that's the point, but it means that there's no airflow coming in. There's no holes in your safety net, and that's essentially what these are. So yeah, I'm going to move on to the different types of masks now, in general. Two things, though. Well, I guess I'll get to that. So this is a little 3D printed mask. You can craft these, or you can basically make your own mask. They're essentially the same idea, though. You put them on over your face, and you make sure that there's no breath or air coming out. And the easy way to test that is put your hand over the air hole and suck through. If you feel air coming through, that's fine. These aren't going to be perfect. There are some things you can do to help with that, and we'll go through it. But essentially, you can have your own handcrafted masks fairly easily, or you can order them, have a friend make them. A number of things. Just a hard plastic shell with a changeable filter area. The other one is the N95 masks. These I would say they're reusable. You shouldn't reuse them. Obviously, it should be disposable. But trying times, you don't really have a surplus of any kind of masks or materials, so understandable. So these are interesting, and again, you don't want to ever touch the front, at least once you've put them on, because again, whatever's on your hand is getting on there, and whatever's on there is getting on your hand, so it's gross. So these, how you're supposed to put these on, is you cup them up, you come up from your chin, and then kind of slide them on over your nose, and then you take the first strap, and then you slide that over your head, and then you take the next one and slide that up back over your head. Now again, you can kind of do the same test where you put your hands over the mask and breathe. And if you feel reduced in airflow and you don't feel any air coming around the mask, then you're good. You're fully good. These masks are the most protective. I want to say they're about 95% effective, hence the name. I don't think anything is 100% effective just because. To remove these is basically the same method. You hold the mask, and again, you're touching the mask, but generally you either want to have, when you're taking these off, your mask is probably dirty anyway, so you're going to want to wash your hands pretty much immediately afterwards. In fact, I've already used this in public, so I'm going to go wash my hands real quick. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Now, material effectiveness is something I want to go over next. So, obviously, the N95 masks are going to be your most preventative method. They're going to work the best. But they're scarce to come by even now, even after all this time, so you may not always have access to them. Plus, they're meant to be disposable, so they kind of lose their effectiveness the more you use them. There are other methods, such as reusable filters, reusable masks, and changeable filters. I like these. They're really hard to talk through, but they breathe fairly well. Now, material-wise, the N95 masks are about 95% effective, if I recall. The surgical masks are about 85% effective. And there's a few reasons why all these materials are more effective or less effective, and I'll go over them in a moment. The main reason these aren't super effective is because they don't create a perfect seal. In fact, usually when you have the mask on, you can kind of feel a little bit of an airflow coming through here. And even if you didn't, it's fairly obvious that this isn't conformed to your face, kind of like the nose is. Of course, there's more... It's less accessible. It has to come from the side and at an angle, so less likely to come through, which is why it's still effective. And honestly, any barrier over your face is more effective than just going out in public. With nothing, obviously. So next most effective material is a vacuum cleaner bag. You can use any kind of vacuum cleaner bag. I don't think it matters. I got a HEPA one specifically just to see if it helps at all. I don't think it helps, but why not? This huge vacuum cleaner bag was about $10 for two, so probably cheaper than most masks. And obviously you can cut this up and make it into a mask, or you can cut it up into small pieces and then put it into the slot of your reusable mask. This cuts the cost on material usage, and what I like to do is I kind of like to put as much material in there as possible until it's uncomfortable to, I wouldn't say uncomfortable to breathe, until it becomes uncomfortable to breathe, and then you take out whatever. You should only need one layer, but every layer helps, and I'll explain that in a moment. So basically, you want to be comfortable breathing under normal circumstances. Because again, if you're not going to wear your mask because you're not comfortable breathing, then it's defeating the point. So essentially, if only one piece of material is what it will take to make you wear it, do it. Doesn't matter. Doubling up just makes it more effective. But, you know, again, costs and everything to account for. So whatever makes you wear something in public will help prevent you or people you love from getting sick. Now, how masks work, it should be pretty straightforward. Like, oh, it's a barrier, keep stuff on. There's a couple of ways the masks work. 3 specifically is how the N95 masks work, and I've done a lot of research. So the first method is just by being small enough. So think about like a net. Like you have nets with like big holes in it because whatever you're catching is big enough that it won't slip through the small holes. And then to catch smaller things, you need less space in between each hole, so it gets smaller and smaller holes. And that's the first method that the N95 masks uses, is it just uses a very fine material so that in most cases the COVID virus can't get through, just because the holes are too tiny. Um, Speaking of which, the reason why the COVID is, well, I wouldn't say deadly, easily spread is because it's smaller than most masks can prevent. But we'll move on to the second method with it, which is why other materials are effective even though they have bigger holes. The second method is diffusion. So essentially, it's like a standard piece of cloth is like a chain link fence. It has the holes in it, and the COVID virus is smaller than those holes, so they can go through. Um, Now, occasionally, like if you throw enough balls, one will go through, but occasionally it'll bounce off or hit or even stick into the fence. Now, the diffusion method is basically putting a bunch of layers of fences all staggered. So even if you go through the first layer, it might bounce off the second layer or get caught on the third. Essentially, the more layers you have, the more it has to kind of zigzag all the way through. And that's hard. Eventually, you'll get stuck. Or, basically, it won't make it to your mouth because it eventually hit one of those pieces of metal. Now, the third method is very interesting. Electromagnetism, if I'm using that word correctly. I know it's electromagnet something. Essentially, they electrify the material in the N95 masks, and essentially what that does is it sucks the virus towards it. So even if it could go through one of those holes, it gets pulled to the edge and stuck there. So those are the three methods it uses to make the mask 95% effective. Now, obviously, most of these materials you're using aren't electrified, so you cross that out. That's one of the reasons why it loses a little bit of effectiveness. Now, you still have the two other methods, is essentially the standard protection, where it's just like, okay, maybe one of those things will hit one of the fences, the first layer of fence. So, again, even if you're using the least effective material, which is silk, only about 50% effective, I would imagine it breathes well, though. So there's still a 50% chance that it hits the first layer and you're good. Chances are it might go through the second or the third. You get the idea. Basically, bigger holes. So the barrier is easier to go through because there's a lot more gaps. Now, the second is obviously more layers using the diffusion method. So even if it goes through the first or the second, and obviously things aren't just one layer, like this is multiple layers, even though it's basically paper thin. It's just a bunch of small layers. But again, every additional layer of material you're using helps. So good idea. So again, with this bag, all you should need is one layer, but stacking another layer or two wouldn't hurt, unless it hurts your breathing, in which case, like, you want to be able to breathe, and you want to wear the mask. You don't want it to be a struggle every time you go out. But yeah, those are the most effective materials. You can also use t-shirts, cotton, a dish towel. Dish towel is ironically, I wouldn't say ironically, but oddly, the second most effective, well, I guess the fourth most effective material besides the bags, the vacuum cleaner bags. I want to say, I have my sources pulled up. They're at about 83%. And then a cotton blend is 74%. A regular cotton t-shirt is about 69%. And then it goes down from there. Scarf being like 62%. And silk being 58% at the lowest. So again, basically the thicker the material, the stronger the thread count, basically the less likely it's going to come through. Another thing I want to mention, because a lot of people don't seem to know this, is the COVID virus can actually go through your eyes. It's kind of like why you shouldn't rub your eyes with dirty hands, is because whatever's on your eyes is getting into your eye fluid and then backtracking into your system. So generally speaking, there's not a lot of ways you can commercially protect yourself without having like one of those big giant face shields. However, I use these things. They're just basically like little safety glasses you would use for like cutting wood and stuff. And now this isn't going to protect you like a doctor's face mask, like those plastic shields. However, it's going to help a little bit. Anything coming directly at your face isn't going to get you, but if you walk into a cloud after someone's been coughing or sneezing, it could go around and into you can see obvious little holes and gaps in the sides. So basically the snugger they fit, or just straight up goggles if you wanted to. Anything that like, well, even then most goggles do have some air vents. So again, you want to cover your face directly as possible, as well as have as little vents to protect your eyes. Granted, you don't have to protect your eyes. That just adds another layer of protection. The mask is going to be protecting you the most, even if you use silk. Whatever material that covers your face, I wouldn't say use it, but if the alternative is not using it, use it. So, like, if you're not going to go out without a silk handkerchief on your face, which is only less than 60% effective, do it. I would prefer if you use something better, but do it. Anything's better than nothing, straight up. So, speaking of which, the masks. The most effective way to prevent the COVID virus, the coronavirus, is if you have it, the masks prevent you from transmitting it to other people, or at least helps more. So basically, if there's one sick person in the room not wearing a mask and everyone else is wearing a mask, it's much more effective for that one person that's sick to wear a mask than everyone else. I want to say, I don't remember the numbers. I saw it on a chart somewhere once. If the person's wearing the mask that's sick, it's 1.5% chance of being spreaded. And if everyone else is wearing a mask, it's about 3 to 5%. So the person wearing it is way more effective. And the worst part about this virus, I'm sure a lot of you know, is that you can have it for up to 2 weeks and not show any symptoms, but still be able to spread it. So again, if you cared about yourself at all, or any of your family members, or anyone in your life in general, any human being, wear a mask. Anytime you go out, great idea. Additionally, I didn't list gloves as a protective material. That's because you don't actually need them. In fact, I actually recommend not using gloves, because whenever people use gloves, and you see this all the time, even in like food service, people think their hands are immune from germs when they're wearing gloves. And in reality, it's just basically a layer of skin you can discard instead of washing. So people just automatically assume their hands are cleaner. I've even been guilty of doing that before. Like, I'll pick something up off the floor, and normally with bare hands, I'd wash my hands afterwards, and I have to catch myself. It's like, wait, I just picked something up off the floor. I should change my gloves. A lot of people don't think that way. Like, they have gloves on. They're touching their face. They're touching their phones. They're touching their face. They're touching their phone, which brings me to another key point. Your phones are disgusting. Absolutely filthy. Pretty much anytime you go out in public, wash your phone afterwards. I wouldn't say actually wash your phone. If it's waterproof or water resistant, wash it with soap and water, because soap and water is actually more effective than alcohol. A lot of things people don't actually know. So wash your hands with soap and water literally any chance you get. Like if you have a chance between a sink and some like hand sanitizer, use the sink. Soap actually destroys I wouldn't say 100%, but it's way more effective than hand sanitizer. And provided you're washing your hands correctly, if you don't know how to wash your hands correctly, please look that up. You should get everything off your hands, and you should be perfectly fine. Speaking of which, additional layers of protection you could do if you were absolutely terrified of getting sick or someone else sick. Like you have someone elderly or immunocompromised, or you just wanted to take as little risk as possible. Whenever you go out in public, change your clothes. If you really wanted to, shower, but definitely pretty much wash anything that wasn't covered by cloth, like your forearms, your face, pretty much anything. That being is like you have a mask to protect your face and even goggles, but you still like, if you walk through a cloud of COVID, which by the way, the reason why it's spread so easily, one of the others, is because since it's so small, it's airborne, which means when somebody coughs, it's not just on a piece of spit, it floats in the air kind of like dust. Eventually it will settle, but you have no idea. And again, people don't actually have to be coughing to spread it, so again, you want to take as little precautions as possible. But so chances are you might have COVID all over your face. You have no idea. So then you'll touch your cheek and then rub your eye or like eat something. Again, you just want to be safe, especially if, again, somebody you care about, you don't want to get them sick. Additionally, what was it? If you don't want to get sick, because a lot of people are just like, if I get sick, I get sick, or like I'll go in the hospital for a little bit and I'll be fine. I'm within another age range, whatever. I feel like that's a bit of a selfish mentality, especially for yourself, because you deserve to be taken care of. You deserve to be taken care of, and you are the one to do that. So essentially, if you do get this, chances are you're going to the hospital. Chances are you'll probably survive if you're young enough, but you're going to have permanent damage to your lungs. Pretty much any virus after this that attacks lungs you're going to be susceptible to in the future. So you're basically giving yourself permanent damage that's going to affect your ability to breathe, and then any underlying factors like smoking or pneumonia, pretty much anything to do with your lungs is going to reduce your survivability in the future. So again, why take the risks? Additionally, I'm not sure about most of you guys, but working at a hospital now, I have amazing insurance. Not like the best ever, but like good insurance. And even then, me going to the hospital is going to not only put me out of work for a very long time, even with long-term and short-term disability insurance, I'm basically going to be in a massive amount of medical debt for a very long time. I'm also going to be out of commission for a very long time, and I'm not going to be making any money while I'm out during that time. So if you guys are just thinking, oh, I'll get over this, no problem, would you? Because again, why do you want to roll those dice of potentially ruining your life or your health? So again, just something to remember. I'm not like shaming anyone. If you want to go out in public and not wear a mask, it's literally your right. I don't agree with it, but I do believe that you should be able to do whatever you want, provided it doesn't hurt anybody. But this is one of those lines, because I don't want to get political. I just believe if you believe in vaccinations, you should believe in wearing masks, because you're essentially preventing diseases, whether to yourself or to somebody else's. If you don't believe in vaccinations, that's a whole topic for another time. And again, I'm trying not to be political. I'm more just trying to protect you because I care about all of you and I want you to be informed. Now, I do believe those are all of the notes I have. I wrote down a few and I was kind of just going over the list. But essentially, I wanted to kind of give you a brief summary at the end to kind of tell you all. So in case you weren't paying attention or in case I rambled on too much, you basically never want to touch the inside of your mask. The outside of your mask is filthy, so don't touch it. Make sure to wear your mask properly or have it fully off. Make sure to wear a mask, whatever material it's made out of. Make sure whatever material you're using is the most effective that you can have it. Be comfortable, be safe, wear whatever other protective gear that you can think of. Wash your hands, because you need it. Wash your phone, because your phone is dirty. Even before all this, phones are disgusting. Because again, like, how often have you washed your phone before all this? But tangent for another time. Wash your hands, wash your phone, be safe. Because I don't want to hear any of you have went to the hospital when you shouldn't have to. Because I care about you guys, and I want you to be safe during all these times. Now, you don't have to freak out, because obviously you can protect yourself. You can limit the risks that you're taking, and you don't have to be afraid to go out, but you do have to be cautious. So I hope you all stay safe. I hope you all stay healthy, and I hope you've learned something and help protect yourself and the ones you love with all this information in the video. Now, I'm not an expert, so feel free to fact check me and do your own research, but do a lot of research if you're going to do that, because I've had to go through multiple sources and not all of them were entirely correct, so I'm not even sure of my own findings. But I am sure enough, because I found enough that conclude with each other. And I'll be posting my research in the notes below if you want to do your own and look around and verify everything that I've looked at. So you guys have a great day, be safe, I love you, and see you soon.